It's all very well to learn how to draw. What's it actually like to work in the comic industry? Our guest artist this evening is a veteran illustrator with an incredibly strong classical background and with an award-winning career in comics going back to the 1970s. He's best known for the comic Marvel Zombies, but he's also been in the vanguard of fully painted comic books in Epic Illustrated, Heavy Metal magazine, and he also won a Grammy Award with Bruce Springsteen. So I'd like you all to welcome this evening the Zombie King, Mr. Arthur Suydam. Welcome, Arthur.
Good to be here,
Thanks for coming tonight.
Good to be here.
So, as I said, you come from an incredibly strong classical background. You've actually dissected corpses, I understand, to learn anatomy. It's very old school. And you're also a musician, and you do many other things. Why do you choose comics as a career?
Well, I was burned very badly when I was about 5 years old, and they didn't expect me to live, so I did about a year in the hospital. There were a team of 4 physicians. 2 of them decided that they should kind of let me go, and my father kind of threatened them to get them to try to save me. And while I was convalescing in the hospital for a year, my father used to bring me in comic books to read, and so I started reading comic books while I was in the hospital. And then when I got out of the hospital, I just stuck with reading them, and I started to draw, and it's just something that kind of stuck with me over the years.
And you're famous actually for painting comic books, which
Right.
when you started out was something that just wasn't done. That wasn't the way
Correct,
comics
right.
were. But it's an incredibly time-consuming process, and it's very intensive. So what makes you think that, I mean, painted comics are really the way to work? Why does that compel you?
Well, basically, I always thought that the comic art could be something more than just something on newsprint that goes in the bottom of the cat litter box when you're done with it. I always thought that basically comic art could be legitimate art, provided that the artist could bring up the skill level and the writers could bring up the writing level. And so when I actually came to DC Comics in 1971, I showed up with oil-painted comic books, and they were still printing on newsprint at that time. So I stayed there for a couple of years waiting for, I'll say, for the industry to kind of grow up.
To catch up.
Yeah, for technology to catch up. And then a couple of years later, basically, there was 2 artists over in France that started a magazine called Maître Hallant that was imported to the United States by National Lampoon and became a heavy metal magazine where they could actually print painted work. So I took the stories that I originally had pitched to DC Comics in 1970 and 1971 and pitched them to heavy metal, and they started to publish them right away. And so that's where I stayed, because what I always wanted to do was write my own stories and do painted work. And that's kind of what introduced the first 2 artists that introduced painted work in the United States were myself and Richard Corbin.
Yeah, that's what I remember very well. Now, how do you obviously started out from you've got a family background in painting.
Right.
How do you recommend for young artists to start out? How do you think they should do to get a foot in?
I think learning to draw out of one's head is the best way to learn, because for me, my experience including with figure drawing, is basically when we're looking at a figure and we're drawing figure drawing from a live model, what we're really doing, and there's an allusion to this, I think, is we're really drawing out of our head. The way to do it best and most successful is we're looking at the model and using the model for reference, but we're really drawing on what we've already learned that has really nothing to do with working directly from models. There's actually a course that I recommend for all artists to take. It's a course that I take myself. It's free. It's on YouTube right now. So if you guys have your pens and pencils ready, my recommendation is to go to YouTube. There's a course called proko.com. It's Proko. There's a guy on there, his name is Proko, teaching the Andrew Loomis course. And I don't know how many people are familiar with Andrew Loomis, but basically what Norman Rockwell had to say about the Andrew Loomis course was that it's the best drawing course in the entire world. And the lessons are all numbered, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What I tell my students is I recommend that they spend 1 month on each lesson before moving to the next lesson. So to split them up on the calendar, for instance, June's coming up. So June would be lesson 1, and just do the same lesson over and over again for 1 month. The lessons are very easy. They're only about 10 minutes, 15 minutes long. And I got more out of it.
I might do that myself.
I got more out of that course in 1 week than I got out of some of the schools that I went to, doing 2 years, 8 hours a day in a school.
What are the pitfalls? What do you think? Where can people go wrong?
There's only one pitfall that I can think of, which is basically if people do not have self-discipline and they can't make themselves stick to a schedule. That's what the regimented schools are set up for, to force you to practice and to do the work and to do the lessons. My experience is that if you're, as artists, I mean, basically being an artist is the art of kind of being motivated and self-motivated. That's why we choose, the difficult occupation of being an artist to begin with, because we love it. And if you love it, then it should not be a problem.
It's the spending hours and hours by yourself, concentrating on one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, on that subject, you've been doing this a while. How do you maintain your health? Because it can be a problem. It's like people doing the same thing, sitting down all day and sometimes all night, drawing.
Yeah.
How do you keep?
Well, you work a routine in. So it's like anything else. I mean, for me, the way I do it personally is wake up, brush my teeth, drink some water, and then go get my exercise done before I start to work. I also find basically when you're doing some cardio and you get your exercise done, what happens is it opens up your cardio systems, it opens up the pipes, so it opens up the oxygen feeders to the brain, and when you finally do sit down to work, you'll find that your brain is not foggy, so that your brain is wide awake, and it's much easier to get the work done.
Yeah.
So for myself, I'm actually a Muay Thai instructor, so I've been doing Thai fighting.
What that said.
I've been doing Thai fighting and teaching Thai for about 10, 15 years.
Oh, that's great. So we're in an interesting time in the industry because a lot of it's going very digital. A lot of the creation tools have become very good and effective. Are you been playing with these things?
So we're talking digital versus analog, basically?
I mean, you come from such a classical painting background. You've got all these techniques and skills. And I've talked to some artists, some painters, very strong painting background, who absolutely refuse to touch the digital tools at all. Okay. I presume you're not like that. You seem to be much more open to the new things and trying out new ideas.
My thoughts on tools is a tool is a tool, and the tool is there to be used. And anybody that thinks it's more honorable to try to use a dime to screw a screw in rather than to go get a screw gun, I think the lesson is clear there. They're just tools, and basically the art comes from the person. It doesn't come from the tool. And my recommendation would be anybody that wants to get into art for a living, as these occupations change, the demands for these occupations change. If they're demanding digital and because they're demanding speed from us, then we have to be, it's on us to be proficient at the new tools that come out and be able to use them and to use them to the satisfaction of the people who are giving us the jobs.
I mean, you're famously eclectic. I mean, you do a lot of other things than just comics. You're a musician, you're a Muay Thai instructor. I mean, does that help you keep a kind of perspective on it? Or?
It does. It does. My experience in the arts is basically that one art supports the other art. And what you find is that the commonality between all these arts and between anything we take on as life is if you have discipline. If you're practicing one entity that demands discipline, when you learn those discipline skills, you're then able thereby to apply those discipline skills to other parts of your life. So you can apply it to your diet, you can apply it to your exercise, if you're a dancer, whichever one. And that's one of the reasons I think you see a lot of musicians that are also artists and artists who also are musicians on the side.
Yeah, that discipline thing is very interesting.
Yeah.
I introduced you earlier on as the Zombie King.
Right.
Partly that's to do with Marvel Zombies, which is an incredibly successful title you did some years ago. But you're also working on a George Romero comic, and which is, I believe, been optioned by AMC. Yeah,
it just got picked up this week by AMC. So anybody who's interested, it's going to be the new, hopefully, the new big zombie series on AMC. Basically, Marvel Zombies. We put Marvel Zombies out in 2005. And that's actually what got The Walking Dead signed to AMC as well. They had been pitching it around to studios, and all the studios were rejecting it, saying, I don't think anybody is going to go for this zombie thing.
Famous last words.
And so then Marvel Zombies came out, and it ended up being the best-selling trade of all time for Marvel Comics. And then following that, we had a series of about 7 other zombie series that I worked on, and that's really what started the entire zombie thing. And then the Marvel Zombies t-shirts became the best-selling t-shirt in the country for 3 years in a row. And then based on that, AMC came back to Robert and to well, to Robert and his team, and they said, hey, we think we want to try that zombie thing you got there, bring it over, and we'll run it up the flagpole. And now it's been the #1 show on TV, on cable TV for the last 4 years in a row.
That's tremendous. How's working with George Romero? I mean, he's kind of the grandfather of all this.
Yeah, he's considered the godfather of zombies. I don't really work with him directly, so they send me, they send me the script, and but they pretty much give me carte blanche.
Because you're a writer yourself, you write quite a lot.
Yeah. So my preference, if I'm going to be illustrating comic books, since I'm painting them, if I'm going to put all that kind of time in them, that I'd prefer that it's something that I wrote myself. But working with George Romero, basically, as I said, with the Marvel Zombies, and by the way, this series is called Empire of the Dead.
Check out that one, Empire of the Dead.
And
when's that coming out? When are we going to see that?
I don't know. They just signed it this week,
Right,
so now they've got to go find
some way off. Okay.
Yeah, they got to find directors. They got to do casting, and probably 6 to 8 months is my guess that we'll be seeing that. The more success you have, commercial success that you provide for for your clients, the more leeway they give you. So for me, when I'm working for Marvel, basically they let me pretty much do whatever I want to do, and that's worked out rather well, I think, for them and for me as well. And that's a good situation.
It has worked out really well for you.
Yeah.
So I'd like to thank you very much, Arthur Suydam, and hopefully you'll stick around and judge our contest later on.
Okay, with pleasure.
So can we take some questions from the audience? Anything to ask Mr. Suydam? That Mike over there.
Arthur,
Yeah.
you won a Grammy. Please elaborate.
Okay, that's a good question. Actually, I didn't win the Grammy. Bruce Springsteen won the Grammy. There were 3 redheads who used to have a band together in New York City. I think they were called the Redheads. One was Susie Tyrell, Patty Scaffey, and Lisa Lowell. And Patty ended up marrying Bruce Springsteen, and so at some point they wanted to have a band for Bruce Springsteen's party, and I was playing with the Cajun Zydeco band at the time, singing in French and English. They invited us over, and so we went to Bruce's house. He had all his friends, all the guys from David Bowie's band and Keith Richards' band. It was a big musical thing outside on his farmhouse. And so my band was the rhythm section. We played all day long, and then when the nighttime came, all those guys came up and sat in with the band. And what happened was Bruce Springsteen's producer was there, and he really loved the way Bruce sounded with the band. With him, once he got up on stage, he didn't want to get off. So it sounded real good, and then so that kind of turned into him keep calling us back again and again and again, and just inventing parties just so he could have us come over there and play with us. Then that turned into basically 3 albums, and one of the albums won the Grammy. That album came along about the same time that Marvel Zombies came along. So actually, I had my choice of going on tour, doing recordings and going on tour with Bruce, or working on Marvel Zombies, and I decided to take Marvel Zombies and let them go. So my band actually went and they recorded the record and they went on tour, but I stayed home and I did Marvel Zombies. And
Back to the drawing board.
Huh?
Very good. That's what we're talking about, focus.
And it's not a decision that I've ever regretted. So yeah, so he won the Grammy, and then that year, actually, I won the Spike Award.
Next question. Brian.
Hi. Hello.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you. I just wanted to ask you what your thoughts are on the comic book industry entering the silver screen. Like, so many movies coming out nowadays. Do you ever think people are going to get tired of it? Is it oversaturated? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts on that are basically, I hear I'll say a similar question to that quite often, which is basically anytime a genre gets popular, how long is it going to last? When are they going to ruin it and wreck it? And when's that boat going to sink? Basically, and my thoughts, regardless what it is, because I hear it a lot about zombies. I mean, how long is this zombie thing going to last before it dies? It applies to music as well, which basically, as long as the producers are keeping the quality up, it could last forever. What happens is that something becomes a hit, then a lot of sharks jump on it, and you get a lot of product that starts coming out that's not of high quality, just so they can rush it to market, and that's usually what kills people's interest in that particular item, whatever it is, that genre, and then people move laterally onto something else. 10 years go past, and then somebody else does another quality product of the same item, and then it comes back in vogue again. So that works in music, it works in dance, it works in artwork. It's all the same, basically. So as long as they can continue to turn out great product, it could stay around as long as it's got those kind of legs, basically.
Shaquille over there, got a microphone, Tim?
Yeah, I just want to ask, like, how long did it take you to complete the whole Marvel Zombie series? Because I think it lasted over a couple of years. Because
Yeah, well, it's actually still going on now. So I think they're up to Series 7 now. So I did all the covers for the first 2 series. I might have even done all the covers for the 3rd series. I wasn't keeping track. Basically, because that series was such a big hit, and the covers were actually the driving force of the series, the print run would sell out in 3 days, and they would call me back after 3 days and say, we need another cover, we need it right away, we need it this week. And so, especially when that first series came out, I wasn't getting much sleep because I had this, because the series kept selling out, I had to really stay up for 3 days in a row, 4 days. The longest I've ever stayed up was 4 days in a row, and that was over Christmas in 2005. I stayed up for 4 days and 4 nights in a row working on the Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Mary Jane zombie wedding cover. I got it in on time. That was like a unique experience in my profession, really, that I had to, that something became such a big hit, and they demanded so much art in such short order. I mean, typically it takes me about between 2 and 3 weeks to paint a simple painting, and depending on how complex, how many characters I have, the longest it's ever taken me. I did a DC Zombies painting. I don't know if anybody's seen it, with Superman and the entire DC universe zombified. Yeah, that took like 4 months to do. So, but I usually typically I work on about 4 paintings at a time. Is, you know, work on one, you take a break from it, let your cobwebs clear out a little bit, go work on something else, and you have to allow things to dry. While one is drying, it's got the fan on it. You go back here and work on something else.
And you're mostly working in oil paint for these, or?
I bounce back and forth between oil painting and gouache paintings. I bounce back and forth, and then depending if the deadline is really, really short, then I'll paint it digitally. Mm-hmm. And I'll paint it digitally. If I like the cover, then I'll go back after I've painted it digitally. I'll use a digital painting as my underpainting, and I'll go finish the painting up.
Pablo over there.
How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Pablo?
Thank you. Would you ever consider doing covers for movies?
Posters for movies.
Yes, movie posters.
Yeah. I've done some. I mean, I've done some paperback books. I don't know if anybody knows Brian Polito. That's Lady Death.
Yes.
So he put a movie out. I don't remember what the name of the movie was, but last year, and I did the poster of his movies. I've done a couple of them.
Okay.
I was originally hired to do the poster for the original heavy metal film as well. Somewhere along the line, they decided, in fact, I don't know if people know about these characters, there were a couple characters that I designed for heavy metal, for the movie, called Charlie and Flytrap. Okay. And the original poster for the movie had a picture of Charlie riding on a flying bat, and somehow through the process, it turned into a girl with giant boobs riding on a pterodactyl. But originally, I was commissioned to do the cover for that movie.
Thank you very much, Arthur Suydam.
Pleasure. Thank you.